A Musical Life with Philadelphia International Music Festival co-founder Sandy Marcucci. What if you could design the perfect summer music camp? Sandy Marcucci wanted to do just that for her daughter, studying the violin with Fischer from the Philadelphia Orchestra, so she started literally in her own backyard. Now, 20 years later, the Philadelphia International Music Festival has become a major destination for hundreds of students around the world who get to study with members of the Philadelphia Orchestra. This episode of A Musical Life has been brought to you by the ArtistWorks online popular piano school taught by me, Hugh Sung. Learn to play your favorite piano songs through hundreds of video lessons, and you can get personalized help directly from me with ArtistWorks' unique video exchange learning system. Stay tuned until the end of this episode for a special discount coupon code to save 10% off of your membership. For more information, visit amusicallife.com/artistworks. Once again, that web address is amusicallife.com/artistworks. Welcome to A Musical Life. I'm Hugh Sung. So, what are your summer plans? If you're a music student, this is the time where, well, if you're planning ahead, you should be thinking about summer music festivals or music camps. Now, most summer music camps have a selective audition process which prospective students need to pass in order to attend. This summer, I'll be one of the piano directors at the Philadelphia International Music Festival, which takes place on the beautiful campus of Bryn Mawr University. One of the things that makes PIMF so unique is the fact that it's open to music students of all ages and ability levels. Its audition process is used to customize the student's experience rather than select them. The result is a welcoming experience where everyone is immersed in classical music and given the opportunity to make their own best progress with the help of master teachers from the Philadelphia Orchestra. Before we get started with our conversation with PIMF co-founder Sandy Marcucci, let's listen to a performance from one of the student orchestras from this remarkable summer music camp. Sandy, thank you so much for being on the show.
It's my pleasure, Hugh, as always.
Now, you are the director and founder of the Philadelphia International Music Festival. Tell us what this is.
It's hard to do we have several hours or to minutes? Yes, it's a great question. And actually, we get that often from people who are new to music and don't understand what a festival is. You know, typically people hear festival and they think of performance-based events.
Sure.
And we certainly include so many wonderful performances by students, by principal players from the Philadelphia Orchestra and elsewhere, primarily the orchestra though. But in a nutshell, we are a truly wonderful music camp. So students come from all over the world and throughout the U.S. to study with members of the Philadelphia Orchestra in a variety of settings. Of course, private lessons in orchestra, chamber music, competitions, master classes. We have a variety of ways that we incorporate both the master teacher and the student at every level. That's quite unique because there are many wonderful music festivals and many wonderful music camps, I'm sure, too. But we combine this really great, I think, idea that Kim and I had in the beginning, and that is to include students who are on their way to Juilliard or Curtis or Cleveland or the Royal Academy of Music or any one of the wonderful conservatories or music schools around the country and world, with students who are just learning to perform. They have to be able to read sight music, but that's basically all they have to do to be able to get into one of our lower beginning orchestras. So when any mom, dad, or visitor walks onto our campus, they might stroll down a hallway where they hear little ones practicing Suzuki Book 2, turn the corner and hear Christian Maciolaru, the conductor in residence of the Philadelphia Orchestra, rehearsing with our top high school orchestra, and they are sounding like pre-professionals already. So we combine every single level in these 2 weeks. It's very, very difficult to run that way, as you can imagine. But we enjoy that. We love seeing students grow up. My own 2 daughters grew up coming here. And so I got to see them from the parental end as well, develop from a young musician who was in one of the early Suzuki books. In our case, not everyone starts that way. And then Maddie, who grew up, coming to the festival and then went to Juilliard. And that's exactly our goal, is to take a student at whatever level they are and let them leave the festival, make them leave the festival well on their way to the next level. So did I explain it? Okay.
I think so. Well, tell me first, what instruments do you accept? You mentioned members of the Philadelphia Orchestra. What are some of the instruments that you will accept to work with? So what do the students need to be able to play?
So we accept students on literally every orchestral instrument, including piano. So we have students we had the youngest child ever to be accepted to Juilliard pre-college, 2-hour knowledge anyway, Ellie Choi, started coming to the festival when she was 5. So
oh my goodness. I was going to ask you, what are the age limits for the camp? That's 5 years old, really?
Now that is a huge, she was a prodigy, is like you, Hugh, the same thing, but she was an exception. And in her case, she was in California. Her mother had seen and heard about the festival. Her mother is a musician as well. She's a pianist, and she asked many times in that year if she could attend. And we kept telling her, wait a couple of years, and then Ellie can come. But she was so persistent that we said, okay, if you come with your daughter and you stay with her the entire time, follow her from each activity to the next. And little did we know that she would become. I'm very good friends with that family, and they are just a terrific family. Youngin is the mom, and Ellie is the daughter. And so they came year after year, and it taught us something very early on, and that is that the little ones. This is indeed how our youngest program started, because we realized that we could incorporate those young ones by including the parents. So if a parent wants to come with the child, we actually love that. We embrace that as well. We have many parents who travel from around the world and stay on campus, even when they're it started that way with the parents came with the young students. It developed into parents coming just because they want to come. They want to be surrounded by all this great music. Many of the parents become staff members. We really pride ourselves on having probably the brightest festival staff in the country, we think, because parents take off from their regular jobs, their regular professions. We've had medical personnel, we've had lawyers, a husband and wife team, for example, came from North Jersey. They took off from their law practice for 2 weeks for several years and worked on staff at the festival, making all the wheels turn. We have so many wheels that do turn that we need, that it just turned out that parents who have students in the music world are so well equipped to come on board as our, what other camps would call counselors. So even our counseling staff is superior. It's fantastic. And again, my kids grew up coming from a very early age. So I had to be, as a parent, of course, very comfortable as well with the people that were going to supervise the general living of the students on campus at Bryn Mawr College.
That's fantastic that you incorporate the parents so closely with the students. I don't know of any other festivals that openly invite parents to be active participants in so many ways in this kind of activity.
No, we really don't know of any other festival that does that. Of course, it has its own challenges, including parents in that way, but it is so. We have found it to be tremendously rewarding. Even and from the personal end, we often get to know those families who come and participate in that way. They have to come early for training, and they stay late to make sure that everyone is back off to the airport safely. So we spend extra time with those families. We get to know them, and they have indeed become some of my best friends over the years, and Kim's as well. So it's all encompassing. I think our festival is just all inclusive and all encompassing. And so our goal is to develop wonderful people, not every student who comes to us is going to be a professional musician. Indeed, not every student that comes to us should become a professional musician. But what they should do is come to us with a desire to be the best musician they can be within the sphere of their own life. For example, we have many students who come who their goal is to be a scientist or a doctor or a lawyer or a stay-at-home father. But whatever their goals are, we work around those goals. And while they're with us, they concentrate completely on music so that they can carve out that time in their life to really only be immersed in music. And basically, they only think about music from the moment they come to the moment they leave. And so then when they go back out into the world back home, they are practicing better. They are usually performing better. We handle, and we have seminars for private practice, for performance, anxiety, you name it, we address it at the festival. And then those students are better able to go out, and if they're on the academic trail, they still have learned these wonderful life skills to not just become a better musician, which we do want them to become, but to be a better person and a more driven person and a more focused person. So we address the whole person when people are at the festival. It's part of what we do.
That's so wonderful. And it's a testament to the fact that the study of music really affects so many areas of life, not just the music itself, but areas of character and study and intelligence and education and culture. So it's wonderful that your festival addresses all those things. I just had a quick question. You had mentioned the youngest student you had was 5 years old. Is there an upper age limit for the festival?
There actually isn't. And remember, the 5-year-old was certainly an exception, although we have made others. Most students, and that's one-on-one when parents call us and talk to us, and we decide whether it's the right thing for that young student, even with the parents. Sometimes it's not the right thing. But typically a parent who calls with a young student that way, they are ready to take that next leap. But anyway, so that's on the lower end. Typically the students are 8 at the youngest level, and they're in our children's program. We have a very special program for students who are 8 to 10. And Hugh, let me address this first before we go on. That program for 8 to 10, again, I think it's unique in the country, and that is a student. We meet the social needs of those 8 to 10-year-olds by making sure that when they are not in actual ensemble rehearsals, they are with students of their own age. So, for example, someone could come to us who is a really outstanding player, has already been practicing and performing and in lessons from the time they were 4. So they come to us at 7 and they place in one of the other orchestras, not the children's orchestra. And that's fine. We have teams of people who their job is to take all the little students who have already been, who are at a higher level, and pick them up from their counselors, take them to the higher orchestras, wait there when the orchestra's over, take them back to their group of young people, so that in the free time, we have no free time, but I'm saying free time, meaning structured time for those young ones. Like we have this wonderful art program that they are in, but they will then be with kids their own age. So it's not dependent upon their placement in orchestra, ensemble, chamber teachers is not by age, it's by skill level. That's quite unique. And then to answer your question, we actually have a program that we developed, and Christian Machelaru, as I was mentioning, he also conducts this program at the festival, and that is called Music House. That is for college students and young professionals. So in that program, we have students who may be as young as 18, although that's young for that program, all the way up through young professionals who are in their mid 30s.
Wow.
And that's a terrific program as well.
My goodness, you really do cover quite a huge gambit of age levels and abilities. It's incredible.
Yeah, and it's that program is separate too. It runs at the same time as our main program, and they reside separately. So it's really basically three programs: a program for the 8 to 10-year-olds, and we keep that small because they take a lot of attention, and they have their own staff guiding them throughout the day. And then the largest program, which is junior high school and high school kids, and then this other program the whole program itself is residing on a different part of the campus, and that's the Music House, conducted by the conductor in residence of the Philadelphia Orchestra. That is an absolutely once in a lifetime experience. They're obviously being conducted by Christian. So yes, someone really could come to us at a young age and stay with us every summer until they are ready to become, move into the world of professional musicians. So that Music House has a component in it where we are focused entirely on audition prep. So those college students come to us, and the repertoire is already built into our program, where they are studying repertoire that will be on major orchestral auditions. So they get to review it first. Can you imagine? They review it with Christian Machelaru, the conductor in residence of the Philadelphia Orchestra. So that what a tremendous start those potential professional musicians have here at the festival.
That is fantastic. Now, I just wanted to also mention, so primarily instruments from the orchestra. So, of course, a lot of violins, viola, cello. Do you work with woodwinds and brass and percussion as well?
Absolutely. Woodwind, brass, percussion, and as I mentioned, piano. And Hugh, thank you so much. We're so happy to be able to invite you back to be teaching this summer in July. So the piano program also, if I could touch on that for a moment.
Absolutely.
Our piano program is, we have two different programs. We have so many programs. Actually, there are 8 different programs, Hugh, within the realm of what I already described about the children's program, the high school program, and the college and young professionals program. Within those programs, we also have a number of ways students can participate. They can participate in orchestra. Many students first participate in orchestra at the festival, because that's our signature program. That's what we started with way back when we were Strings International Music Festival. We have up to 7 different orchestra levels so that we can indeed accomplish all of those goals that I already spoke about, and we can meet every student at each individual student's level. Then there are other ways that people can participate. We have a solo performance preparation program, which is absolutely such a unique and wonderful program. Again, both of my daughters have participated in this program. And what this program encompasses is students who are already practicing 2 and 3 hours a day, and almost every one of these students is on the track to become a professional musician. So they come to us. They have to be 13 years of age and older, and it's by audition. This portion of the program, not the others, but is by audition only. They come to us, and they apply for this program. If they are accepted, it means that they are in a boot camp for 2 weeks for strings. This one is only open to string instruments. So they practice 4 to 5 hours every day. They work out with an accompanist, their own accompanist that follows them throughout the festival for 30 minutes a day. They have a solo performance class for an hour every day. They have chamber music for 2 hours every day. And then they have their 3 to 5 private lessons each week. That program is, as I just described, is quite intense. And people that enter that program always love it. They're exhausted by the end, but you can imagine the difference in their thinking from in 14 days of that kind of intense instruction is absolutely life-changing. So that's the boot camp for the strings players. Kim and I jokingly call it the boot camp. And we love that program. We do a similar program that in Miami typically every winter as well, and that's our Miami boot camp. Then we added not too long ago a piano program, which is intense, just as intense. So in that piano program, and Hugh, you know, because you teach there and you will be there again in July, that program students have at least three lessons a week. They have to practice 3 to 4 hours a day. They have a group lesson, which is more structured like a Masterclass with forehand piano technique or sight reading or whatever the teachers determine is necessary for that particular day. So it's very personalized. We only accept 16 piano students to that program, and that happens both in the June session and in the July session. And that is only made possible. I know that, Hugh, you also are very close to Cunningham Piano Company
Yes.
in many ways, and they have literally made that program possible for the Philadelphia International Music Festival. It would not be in existence without them. And for people listening who might not know who they are the oldest and most prestigious piano company in Philadelphia, one of the oldest in the country, I believe, and they provide pianos all over the world. And their heart is in music education. So when we needed pianos in the beginning, just 1 or 2 pianos, they were there. And when that program grew immediately into us needing 15 and now 20 pianos, and this year they don't know it yet, but probably 30 pianos.
Oh, no. Wow.
They provide them. They just provide them for our students. And we're so grateful for all they do, and that they're terrific people. And Rich Galassini, who's one of the owners, is always at the festival around talking to everyone. He just loves music education as well. So it's a wonderful combination of Cunningham Piano, Philadelphia International Music Festival, and of course, Hugh Sung as our piano director.
Well, I'm going to interject a little bit and tell a story about one of my experiences with some of the kids. I think one of the things that makes your festival so unique, and we've talked about many unique things, the parent inclusion, but also being able to include people of all levels. And I just wanted to share a story from my department. I remember working with a young pianist who was incredibly intelligent, but wasn't really that focused on playing the piano. He could play, but he clearly didn't spend much time on it. So he had some issues, but that was okay. We were going to try to see if we can customize some lessons for him. And it turns out that he was part of a chamber group. And interestingly enough, the chamber group was really frustrated because they were playing repertoire that they didn't particularly enjoy. And again, they had a very beginner cellist who I think was struggling to read music. They had a rather intermediate violinist. She was pretty good, but of course she felt stuck in a group where she wasn't being challenged. And the chamber music teacher turned to me and said, "Is there anything you can do to help these kids out?" And I said, "Well, let me see what I can do." And we jumped in, and the first question I asked them is, instead of going through the standard repertoire, I simply asked them, "What would you guys like to play? If you could play anything, what would you like to play?" And the pianist, of all people, jumped in and said, "I want to play A Day in the Life by the Beatles." And so I actually wrote a custom arrangement, wrote down 16 parts suited to the ability level of each of the students. And then we created this multi-panel video performance of them playing each of those tracks. And these kids went from struggling to keep up and feeling rather intimidated by some of the extraordinarily talented students there to becoming, I would say, the stars of the festival because they had their own music video production. And in fact, it got so popular that one of the top violinists that year begged to join the band, so to speak. And I think,
my goodness. Well, Hugh, of course I remember that. Of course I remember that. And that is just, that is such a good little glimpse into the festival. Just that little story you just told, Hugh, because we really personalize. Kim and I work so hard to do it. And it is incredibly difficult. You can imagine with 300 students of different levels, it's very, it's challenging, shall we say, to meet every student where they are. But I believe, do a good job at just that. And that's indeed one of our purposes, is to take a student at the level that he or she is at and help move them to, on to that next level. So the festival is filled with people like you, Hugh, members of the Philadelphia Orchestra, who are willing to do exactly what you did and change things midstream, so that we can meet the needs of those individual students, because everyone who comes to us is an individual, obviously.
Yes.
So the story that you just told, although you excel at it, Hugh, and that was a highlight of our almost 20 years now. But those types of stories happen all the time at the festival. And indeed, this is how we talk about before students come. One of the things that we talk about the most is with our faculty and with our staff, that we are not a stagnant festival, because this is planned. It doesn't mean this is the way it's going to go. We change repertoire often. In the chamber group, we have repertoire. We send it out early on. But when the students show up, if it doesn't seem to us to be just right, we use what was sent out for purposes of instruction, and we add other pieces that we know are needed at the time. Is that easy to do? Absolutely not. It means a lot of last minute turnaround. It means we have to have, with Hugh, I think this is also very interesting, with 280 students, for example, last year, we had 50 staff members and 50 faculty members. So 100 people working this festival with only 280 students. So that's how serious we take meeting people where they are and accepting students at all different levels, and being willing and able, having enough faculty, enough staff to be able to change things immediately when we see that this is good, but something else would be even better. And so, we do that. Like, for example, one time Yannick was going to visit. He was going to make a pop visit into the festival.
Now, Yannick, just to mention, Yannick Nezet-Segan is the conductor, the maestro of the Philadelphia Orchestra. So, wow. Okay, tell us this story.
Yeah, so he was going to pop in, and it wasn't a planned thing. He had this time in his schedule, and Kim asked him if he could do it, and he said absolutely. So we had to, within hours, just change and now, was this worth doing? Absolutely. Let me preface it with that. So we had to, within hours, change our rehearsal schedule, change our class schedule, flip-flop our day, so that our free time was now in the morning when Yannick would be there, and then that where the free time had been scheduled later, we were going to do our classes at that time. So it was a bear of an undertaking. The logistics there were quite heavy. So not only do we deal with our own staff and faculty and lessons and chamber rehearsals and orchestra rehearsals and masterclass rehearsals and solo performance rehearsals, I failed to mention that every single student that comes to the festival, no matter how many there are, each one is encouraged to perform a solo and given the opportunity to perform a solo at the festival. And so those solo performances obviously are accompanied by a rehearsal. So at any given festival, we might have 600 rehearsals and performances scheduled throughout the 14 days. And that's huge. So anyway, we changed everything, because what a wonderful experience. And again, lifetime experience for the students to be introduced to Yannick in this setting. We had an orchestra ready by the time he showed up for him to just guest conduct for just two brief minutes. But anyway, it was so powerful and so worth it. These students have seen Yannick from all over the world, and it was a thrilling and very encouraging day. And Kim and I know that those things are very powerful, and they take students. A little impact like that, a seemingly small moment, really can become a huge moment in someone's life. We've all heard the stories of students who heard someone play cello on television, and all of a sudden they want to be a cellist, and then 15 years later they're a great cellist in one of the world's top orchestras. So we've heard those stories over and again. So we take advantage of those moments that we can turn into life-changing moments. Like you did, Hugh, with your group, and many years afterwards. Thank you again for doing that, because that was truly wonderful for that group and the whole festival. The festival just jumped on board with what you were doing, and it was a really excellent thing.
Well, again, this is a testament to your creativity in creating an environment of creative flexibility and encouraging the staff, faculty, and students to be as creative as possible in crafting the best musical experiences for themselves. I'd like to step back in time and go into the background. So how this all started. And you mentioned that the festival is now going on its 20th year. Congratulations. That's incredible.
Thank you, Hugh.
Now, are you a musician yourself? Do you play an instrument?
I don't. No, I am not a musician, but I think after I hesitated because I feel as if I am after 20 years of running a music festival with such talented students, and again with students who are just beginning. So I've seen every level, worked at every level, and this leads right into this next or the first part of your question here, and that is my daughter Madison, who is now 28, when she was young, I knew that I wanted her to play the violin. So I did a lot of research, and the Suzuki Method was, to me, by far the best way to proceed there. So I looked into it. I attended some events where the Suzuki Method was being demonstrated by Mr. Suzuki at the time, and a whole orchestra that came over. I think it was one of his last performances, actually, one of his orchestra's last performances. And I saw immediately, I mean, it took all of 2 seconds to realize, wow, this is a powerful method. So I dove in and found what was, I believed, one of the top Suzuki schools and top Suzuki teachers. And he indeed had taught some of the Philadelphia Orchestra members, kids himself. And so I really jumped in head first there. And I was one of the Suzuki moms who learned violin with my child. And I worked with Maddie from the time she was 5. So it was a little bit late. I should have started when she was 4, but she was 5. And so I worked with her until she wouldn't allow me to work with her anymore. So she was probably, I think she was 12. So every day our lessons were together. Kim Fischer was her main teacher throughout those years. And she is absolutely brilliant. Kim is surely one of the masters in the world today in teaching. And so every day, I looked forward every week with great passion to going to Kim's lessons and taking, pages and pages of notes. It was really just such a wonderful experience for Madison and for me, because I realized I was at the feet of a master, so to speak. And indeed, I saw that happening in Maddie's life as we traveled along. So the festival began because when Maddie was 9, Kim said to me, Maddie needs to start going to music festivals, and they need to be challenging for Maddie's level. And she was already, advanced at that age. So I listened to every single thing Kim ever told me to do, except for this. And I was thinking, no, I'm not sending my little 9-year-old away. And I don't necessarily think she's ready to be involved in music all summer. So all the great festivals that I had found, anyway, I'm sure there were some that I just didn't see, but the ones that I had looked into that I thought would match Madison, her personality, Kim's teaching style, etc., were all 4 weeks, 6 weeks long. So I believe it was maybe the next day, I called Kim and said, Kim, why don't we start our own? And I had already been doing international, let's call them festivals, but they were for sports. So I was doing...
we should mention this. So this was actually what you were doing for a living beforehand. So you've already had a lot of quote unquote camp experience. Your husband, Rich, is actually a very renowned sports camp director, isn't he? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So there was, so my husband is involved in basketball and has been forever, ever since I knew him. And so there was such a relationship between sports and, kids trying to be the best in basketball. That's my husband's main focus, and music. So the transition was actually fairly easy for me, although it's quite different, obviously. And the festival is so much more involved than a sports camp. But nevertheless, working with students who, some of them are now in the NBA, some of the basketball students that Rich worked with, working with that level of student who is driven, who shoots basketball for 2 and 3 hours a day, and who works on his dribbling and his basketball techniques and offensive skills, and very serious about it, is similar to a musician who is willing to give that 100% to become the best musician they can be. So it started out with we were doing festival basketball camps here in New Jersey, and I had studied overseas a bit, and I said, and basketball at the time was the fastest growing sport in the world. So I love the international exchange of ideas, and so I said to my husband, let's do international programs and bring our kids overseas, and many of them who had never been even on an airplane before, and let's bring some of those international students to the U.S. because everyone wants to come to the U.S. and visit and explore. So we did that. So we started doing events in Iceland and France and England and Belgium, and it was quite fun also, and a wonderful, terrific experience for our students. We would bring groups of students to each of those places. So that transitioned into when I called Kim, I said, Kim, you know what I do for a living. Let's do it with music. And she said she needed to think about it. But it was only a week later, she called and said, okay, let's do it. So in the beginning, it was at my home. We rented big wedding tents and some of the principals. It was quite beautiful, but rather hot. And we did our first several. And even the very first ones had, wonderful musicians from the Philadelphia Orchestra involved. And so,
how many students did you have at that very first camp?
We had 40 in the first camp.
This is literally a homegrown festival, right out of your own house.
Absolutely, yes. And Roberto Diaz was one of the Masterclass presenters at that festival.
Oh my goodness!
It was just so. Just such a wonderful time then. With the 40 students, we did a lot of activity with them, but we quickly grew out of my home, even with the wedding tents. First we had, we were here maybe 3 years. First we had one wedding tent, then we had two, then we had three. And we used a local college here for private practice, etc. But we quickly became too big. So I think it was the 4th year we moved off campus, and we've been at Bryn Mawr College, which is a stunningly gorgeous place to be, for the last, I think, 12 or 13 years.
I wanted to ask you, how did you meet Kim Fischer, who is the principal second violin player of the Philadelphia Orchestra? And by the way, Kim and I were actually classmates when we studied at the Curtis Institute of Music eons and eons ago. How in the world did you?
Eons.
How did you find Kim? How did you meet her? And how did you convince someone of Kim's caliber to work with your daughter?
Yeah, Hugh, that is a great question, because Maddie was, advanced for her age, but she wasn't soloing around the world. As I was mentioning, little Ellie had already been doing it 5. But this is how it happened. I needed a great teacher. Maddie had been taking Suzuki lessons or studying the Suzuki Method for 3 years, perhaps it was, I think, yeah. And I knew that we needed another wonderful teacher. Now, in my case, some people stay with their initial teachers for a long time, and sometimes that's the right thing to do. So in my case, I knew we needed to find another teacher. So I just hounded every person I knew. So Maddie was in the Temple Gifted Young Musicians program. So on Saturdays, we were there for orchestra. So I started asking some of the Philadelphia Orchestra members, kids were in that orchestra, and I started asking around. And one of the members said to me, there's this young person who hasn't been in the orchestra that long. She came over from Curtis. Her name is Kim Fischer, Kimberly Fischer. Maybe she would take a young student. So Kim was very busy in her own life and with the orchestra. And so she didn't return my call immediately. So I think the word now is stalk. So I stalked her and I just stalked her. And finally, she called back and said, you know what? I don't usually take students that young, but I'll hear Maddie. So I said, great. When? And of course, whenever she said, I was going to drop whatever I was doing, whatever I had planned, and go over. And she said, let's say she said Thursday at 1. I said, great. Okay, absolutely. So Maddie and I practiced, I think every hour between then and when we went to Kim's. And Maddie played. And before she was done I think she was in Suzuki book 5 or 6 at that time. And before she got through the first page of the piece, Kim said, "Okay, you can stop. I know I'm going to take her." And it was a wonderful mother moment. And of course, it changed our lives. It literally changed our lives. Kim, as I mentioned, is absolutely amazing. We have a masterclass, Hugh, as you know. The first day of the festival, we have something, again, quite unique, and it is called the All Instruments Masterclass with Kimberly Fischer. So Kim gives a masterclass. Most of the parents stay for this. So it's, hundreds of people in this room, great music, and Kim works with various different instruments. And she does a masterclass with all of these different instruments, one by one, each of the different performers that we choose ahead of time. And I have heard people leaving that event saying it was the most exciting musical experience of their lifetime. I've heard parents say that. Kim is really, when she speaks, the room is, you can hear a pin drop. She is fabulously exciting, and she obviously knows what she is talking about. So you just sit there and feel like a sponge because you want to soak in everything Kim says about music. For us, it was absolutely life-changing, not just because Kim and I ended up starting the festival together, but because Kim has become a good friend, and she's just as wonderful a person as she is a musician.
I think the most remarkable thing that I'm hearing from our conversation is your ability to take your passion primarily to help your daughter and funnel it into something that has now benefited hundreds, if not thousands, of other people in all their different pathways. And so you've taken your desire for excellence for your children and helped other people achieve that same desire and level of achievement. That's a remarkable accomplishment.
And Hugh, it's really taught me, I believe I knew this as a younger person anyway, but it taught me hands-on that every person can achieve excellence, everyone. So every student that comes to us, our vision is that person can achieve excellence in an area, 1 area, 5 areas, all areas of life. That depends on the individual person, but every single person can pursue and achieve excellence.
All right, I am a student or I'm a parent listening to this interview. You've got me so excited with your vision for this incredible festival, the Philadelphia International Music Festival. Tell us how we can get in touch with you and what the procedure is to get involved, either primarily as a student to become enrolled in this festival and perhaps even as a parent to get involved.
We've made that straightforward too, Hugh. We don't require an audition for entrance into our signature program, which is the symphony program. And that is our largest program. The others are smaller and by audition only. So parents who have students who are just beginning or who are intermediate students not yet ready to participate in one of our by audition only programs, it's very easy. We have an extensive website, as you also know, and it's just PIMF.org, or if you forget that, PhiladelphiaMusicFestival.org. And they register online even prior to having to worry about an audition. We've made the audition process very simple, but first a student registers, and that gives us the opportunity to look at their paperwork first, because we require them to record the repertoire that they're working on, how long they've been studying, if they have already competed or performed in chamber groups or small ensembles, large ensembles, etc. It gives us a clear vision on paper. And then by April 30th, they have to submit an audition for placement. It's not for entrance to the orchestra program.
That's quite unique. Just about every other festival I know of, you audition just to get in. But in your case, you let the folks come in, and then they send some sort of recording or video for really to find their best place within the festival, not the other way around.
Exactly.
Wow.
That's exactly right. So the couple of by audition only programs, those programs for advanced students, you also register first and so that everything is set. You send in your audition materials, and we send out information that is very, very straightforward. It's so easy nowadays to upload auditions, and we have a platform just for doing that. But by audition only students, they also register and then send in their audition. And if they do not, this is also unique, if we don't accept them into the program they're applying to, we make suggestions, or if they don't want to attend, then we refund their deposit in full. So they don't have to worry about auditioning and not being accepted and losing their funds. So the other students, though, the parents of students who are interested in the orchestra program, and again, that's a lot of students because we have up to 7 orchestra levels. Like it's just so easy. They register online, and then they start getting information from us as to what to do next, and it's very clearly outlined. And we have people here, staff members here all year, because many parents, first-time parents, call us throughout the year and ask all kinds of questions, and we like that because the closer a parent is to the situation, usually the better the student is going to do at the festival. So we have many conversations with parents, and we welcome their telephone calls and emails.
If they want to phone you, what is the best phone number to reach you at?
It is our New Jersey office, which is 856-875-6816.
Thank you. Just 2 brief questions. The first question is, when you started this festival, did you ever imagine that it would grow this much? Was that plan? Was that your desire to see this festival grow as much as it has these past 20 years?
Yes.
So you were ambitious right from the get-go.
Well, we named it in the beginning. We had the word international in our name from the very beginning because, again, my life changed from my experience. So I studied in Paris for a bit when I was in college, and I also went when I was in high school, and that is a life-changing experience. So I knew immediately that this needed to be an international program. And of course, the Philadelphia Orchestra is one of the greatest orchestras, maybe the greatest orchestra in the world. And it's right around the corner from us. So what a wonderful, what a blessing that some of the top orchestral musicians in the entire world are here in this area, and that they also enjoy teaching students at various levels. So the match there was just perfect, and Kim is just terrific. So yeah, so the answer is yes, I did. I planned it to be international, and we went several times to Croatia, and learned about their music festivals, and took a group of students on 2 occasions to a camp that they do in this wonderful place called Grozny, and then some of their students came here. This year we're going to have probably 2 different groups from China who come as groups to the festival, because we didn't touch on this, Hugh, but up until now we were always a June-based festival at the end of June. And now, for the first time, we've added, so we're really doubling in size this summer, we've added a full festival in July 16th to July 29th. So now, even though last year we had, I think, 12 or 13 different countries represented at the Philadelphia International Music Festival, this year we will have more, no doubt, because now we're holding a festival while the European students are on summer break. And the Chinese students are on summer break or on break. So before that, we had 1 or 2 from various different countries, and sometimes we had to write notes to their schools saying that this is a wonderful experience, please excuse them. We have to do that for some U.S. students as well. But now that we're in July, just about everybody is off in July. So we are expecting more international students than even in the past.
What was the biggest challenge to growing? Speaking as an entrepreneur, because you are really one of the most remarkable entrepreneurs that I've ever met. What were some of the biggest challenges of growing the business and thinking of the festival as a business, particularly since you were not a musician? Of course, you had the experience of working with great teachers, but not being a musician yourself. How did you overcome? I'm sure there must have been some intimidation from not being, quote unquote, brought up as a musician, and yet diving headfirst into putting together one of the most really well-respected music festivals around. What were some of the things that you had to overcome?
Well, I mean, Kim was and is the artistic director, and Kim is extremely intuitive and bright. So that was I couldn't have done it without Kim. I mean, Kim, of course, is the co-founder. So we had to have each other. And Kim's words of wisdom really were pearls of wisdom. So anything that I couldn't tackle, so to speak, Kim could and can. So I didn't have to worry about my lack of musical knowledge because Kim had it. Kim is a wealth of knowledge. She is, you've heard me say it, and it's 20 years later, I find it to be even more true than I knew it was back then. That Kim is amazingly capable, talented, bright. So she has the vision on the music end of what she wants to happen musically at the festival with repertoire. She selects the repertoire for almost every ensemble that is performing. And then, of course, for Christian Maciolaru's, he selects it with Kim. But the end that I am so comfortable with, which is training people to be the best that they can be, and just embracing the life of the person who is attending anything that I'm doing, that made it so that I really wasn't that intimidated to do it. That combination of Kim being the artistic director, me having the experience of international events to a certain extent, and having already pursued excellence in music for my own child. At the time, it was just the one. I didn't feel all that intimidated, and when I did, I focused on something else. And of course, I'm very blessed. I know that God has blessed the endeavors that I've undertaken.
That's tremendous, Sandy. Thank you so much for taking the time to share. I think everybody can hear the incredible enthusiasm you have for this incredible festival that you and Kim have put together. Even after 20 years, it sounds like you both are just beginning. But thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to share really the behind-the-scenes look at what makes this festival so remarkable and so inviting for students and parents alike.
Thank you, Hugh. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
This episode of A Musical Life has been brought to you by the ArtistWorks Online Popular Piano School. Now, one of the things I'm known for is teaching thousands of absolute beginners around the world how to play beautiful piano songs like Clair de Lune. I've been teaching students for a little over a year now through ArtistWorks, and I have to say it's absolutely amazing how much fun it's been for everyone involved and the amazing progress every student makes, no matter their skill level. Folks who have never played the piano before are discovering the joy of making beautiful music for themselves. And I'm able to work with students of all ages and ability levels from all over the world. The ArtistWorks Online Popular Piano School comes with hundreds of videos of me teaching the world's most popular piano songs, and you'll be making beautiful music right from day one. But the most amazing part of the school is ArtistWorks' proprietary video exchange learning system. Through the video exchange learning system, you can post a video exchange submission of your own playing, and then I create a video exchange response where I give you personalized help to make the best progress learning your favorite piano songs. It's just like taking a piano lesson with me in person, but better. To learn more about the ArtistWorks Online Popular Piano School with me, Hugh Sung, visit amusicallife.com/artistworks and use coupon code PIANO10 to get a 10% discount off of your membership. Once again, that's amusicallife.com/artistworks, and the coupon code is PIANO10, no spaces. For links to the Philadelphia International Music Festival, visit the show notes at amusicallife.com. While you're there, be sure to sign up for our newsletter to get updates on the latest episodes and special news. And please leave a comment to let me know what you think. We have some fantastic guests lined up and I can't wait to share their stories and music with you. And by the way, thank you for your support. By listening, subscribing, and sharing this show with your friends, you're helping so many other folks discover this weekly podcast. Until next time, I'm Hugh Sung, and I wish you a musical life.